My name is Andrea Trudeau, and I'm here to share my presentation today, Harnessing the Power of AR and VR to Develop Empathy. It's such a great opportunity to do this with you today, not only because I'm like dreaming of being in California at this actual conference, if it were happening there, but also because I am a total ed tech kind of geek. Currently a PhD student at Northern Illinois University and hoping to do my dissertation on this actual topic. This is my 23rd year in education. Most of those years were spent in 7th and 8th grade classrooms teaching social studies in ELA. And this is my 6th year as what I like to call a no-shush librarian here at Shepherd Middle School in Deerfield District 109 in Deerfield, Illinois, so just north of Chicago. On my title slide here, I have my Twitter handle. Very active on Twitter, would love to connect with you on Twitter, so feel free to tweet out what we're doing today or just follow me and connect with me that way. And I've also put a bit.ly for my slide deck so that you can reference it later, and feel free to share it with others. So I wanted to start today because I know everyone's kind of in a different place and we kind of come to the table with a different background regarding AR and VR. So AR is augmented reality, VR is virtual reality. And I kind of set up these visuals here for you, these little GIFs to kind of help you see this. So on the left, you can see actually my dog is lying in her dog bed, and you can see this little world kind of right next to her. And it's just been displayed there using an iPad. On the right, we're actually in that world. And so both of these are taken through a tool called CoSpaces EDU, which has been a really transformational tool that we've used here at my in my library. And it just kind of shows the difference between augmented, where you kind of have this layer on top of reality, versus virtual, where you're fully immersed and you're in this completely different world. So I want to start today because we're kind of, pulling this idea of AR and VR and then pulling in empathy as well. And I'd like to know, what do all of you think of the word empathy? How would you define it? And if you wouldn't mind taking a moment and chatting your thoughts in the chat, we can kind of share some ideas that way. I'm going to open my chat. So how would you define empathy? So Corey says, understanding the perspective of others, understanding. Any other thoughts? Compassion, I love that. Walking in another person's shoes. It's interesting because my son is currently reading To Kill a Mockingbird, and that was a quote we discussed last night. We were talking about that. Excellent. So I want to, thank you, Joy. Yes. I taught that book a long time, and so it was interesting to have that conversation with him yesterday. So I want to show you a quick video. I'm going to hope that this is going to play and we're going to hear it okay. If it doesn't work, then you have the link here. Brene Brown is like one of my go-tos. She's so inspiring and amazing. And she put together this short little video that kind of explains empathy versus sympathy. And it helps us kind of like dig in a little bit to this topic so that we all kind of have this frame of reference for the presentation today. So let me click this and get this going. Is the sound working, I hope?
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, you climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, You want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with "at least." Yeah. And we do it all the time, because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
So I love this. This is really how I choose to lead in my library, is through, like leading with the heart. And so, I feel like this notion of empathy is something I try to integrate into everything that I do, whether it's instruction, technology, through the books that I recommend, trying to connect with students and connect students to other students and with other voices. So, it's important to look at, we're not just doing this because it's warm and fuzzy and fluffy. There are actual standards that demonstrate that this is of value. And so it's, one of the Castle core SEL competencies is basically to be able to empathize with others and to be able to take a perspective of someone that has a different background than you, or to appreciate diversity and have respect for others. And I think more than ever, this is so important. And I work in a community that is not incredibly diverse. It is pretty homogenous here. And so I've often felt like I'm kind of working in this little bubble. And when the students in my community travel, they often travel and they stay in pretty nice hotels, and they don't always necessarily get a glimpse of how people are living around the world. And so I feel it's really my responsibility to find ways in which to break the bubble down and help them see the world around them for what it really is, and help them learn how other people are living and how we can all sort of relate to each other. And I think one really powerful way to do that, obviously, is through books, but also through virtual reality. So many of you, if you're librarians, I know this was a basic tenet that I learned when I went back to become a librarian. Rudine Sims Bishop in 1990 came up with this concept of mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors. And the idea here is that when we select books for a collection, that we are providing mirrors. We're finding books that have that same viewpoint in them, so that people feel validated. They can see themselves in the collection. Windows allow us to look into these other worlds and to look at them from afar. But the part that I like for VR is this sliding glass door. It's being able to slide that door open, go into this other place, and truly step into someone else's shoes and take on that perspective. And so we can do that with books, but we certainly can do that with virtual reality and augmented reality as well. So for me, this all started with cardboard. It was about 6 years ago when I attended a small conference here in the suburbs of Chicago, and a colleague of mine won this little pack of cardboard, and we didn't even know what it was. And we opened it up, we're like, oh, you can like look in this thing. And so we started exploring, and we realized that there were all these incredible apps that we could get on our phones, and we could go to these faraway places. And as a kid of the 80s, it like brought me back to like my Viewmaster days, because I used to love clicking and going to and looking at all these different worlds. So I immediately worked with my PTSO, and I was able to get 10 cardboards. And we found this app through RYOT Huffington Post called The Crossing. And I found a clip that was about 3 minutes long. And when you're, in there watching, you're on the shores of Aleppo, Greece. You're looking out to the ocean. And when you look up, you see the sky all around you, you see the sand beneath your feet, and all of a sudden you see this boat kind of coming up, and you see all these people in this boat, and there are cries of joy. And you quickly learn that these are people that are refugees that have now made it to safety, and they're going to hopefully begin a new life. So I shared this with a 7th grade social studies teacher. We did like a little station in the classroom. The kids were learning about the refugee experience. So we had one station where they could actually be immersed, and then they read articles, and we talked about it and we moved on. Well, fast forward to these 7th graders now becoming 8th graders, and we had this incredible opportunity basically fall in our lap. A family of a student who was a graduate of our school came to us, and they told us that there was a family that their temple was going to be sponsoring. So this family had lived in Syria, and they had fled and had made it to Turkey and had lived in a Turkish camp for 2 years. They literally had just the bags, like whatever was in a backpack was all they had. They knew nothing about the United States. They knew no English. And now they were headed to the United States. And so this temple was sponsoring them and helping them find a place to live, get them jobs, help them kind of assimilate to American life. So this family came to us and said, could we get the 8th graders to create some videos? We have like a private Facebook page, like a welcome wagon page. We'd love the kids to make some videos to help this family adjust to American life. And so we had, I'm thinking this is 8th grade and this is going to be after school. Kids are coming in. I'm like, all right, we might get like 6 or 8 kids to come in. That'll be great. I'm not joking. It was standing room only. We had about 55 kids come in. And these are kids that are like super overscheduled, have a million things going on. It was like a quarter of our 8th grade class took the time to come in. And so what they did was they created all of these incredible videos to help this family. One boy, as you can see there, caring for a dog. These girls wanted to make sure that the children in the family knew who the Disney princesses were, how to use a microwave, how to use a vending machine. So all these little things that we sort of take for granted living in the United States, they made these short little sweet videos, and then I was able to post them on this temple website. So this family, as well as other families that this temple sponsored, could get that support. So to me, that was like such a eureka moment because I had been a longtime classroom teacher. And my goal has always been that, we want to inspire our students to not just be lifelong learners, but to take their resources and their strengths and what they have and make their corner of the world a better place. And so the fact that these kids had this small little experience about refugees and had learned about it through this immersive experience, and then fast forward months later, they were also inspired to pay it forward. I thought there was something here. And it was pretty magical. I'd never seen anything like this before in the work that I've done here. And so this is why I love virtual reality. This is a sketch note done by Sylvia Duckworth and Maria Galanis, who's an amazing innovation coach here in my district. She and I worked together to develop this. And number 2 has really always been the reason I have loved VR the most, because I think it just allows us, yes, a book can take us to these other places, but there's something incredibly powerful about like being positioned in someone else's shoes and sort of seeing it all around, and in videos, being able to hear the voice as well. And so this is just a little overview, but number 2 is what I feel like I want to share with you today. So in the chat, I'm curious, I'm going to share all kinds of tools that you can use today, but before I kind of unload and share all that, I'm curious, where are you in your AR and VR journey, and maybe where do you hope to go? So if you wouldn't mind entering that into the chat, just want to see kind of where we're at. Let me go back, sorry. Okay, awesome. Nikki used Google Expeditions. That was like how I started. That's amazing. Yes, Nearpod, cool. Ooh, that is amazing, Corey. Oculus Quest 2. That was actually my birthday present from my parents, and I've been playing with it. It's phenomenal. And then 360 cameras are amazing. You can actually build your own virtual classroom or library. There's a tool called Matterport that is amazing for that. $40 viewers, that's amazing. Teachers use, but no collaboration. We can talk about that. Let's see. All right, amazing. Okay, so I'm going to share with you a bunch of tools. And this is probably going to be, okay, we have about 35 minutes. So I'm going to try to get in as much as I can. And then just know at the end, I've curated a Padlet that has all kinds of links and resources. And I encourage you also to reach out to me if you have any questions later, because this is going to be kind of a quick overview. And I just want to make sure that, you get everything, and then we can connect later if we need to. So I am basically here today to say that I think that the idea that Rudine Sims Bishop came up with when she was talking about books is embodied and extended by AR and VR. So we know books can be this powerful vehicle, but I think given the way that our students think and behave, and they're so drawn to like video right now, VR can be this really powerful sliding glass door to help build this empathy and understanding. And I think in a situation with those 7th graders that eventually were 8th graders and doing those projects, when they were put in those shoes, I think they really understood like how hard that experience was. And so when the opportunity arose, they really wanted to make a difference. And so what this really gets down to is this is about the power of story and like the future of storytelling. And I think what's really amazing is that, you're not on the outside looking in like you are in some sort of a window. In this case, you're completely immersed in. And I will tell you, I've been doing VR here since my first year as a librarian. Obviously, it's a little tricky. We're not doing as much right now because we're in a hybrid situation in my school with the pandemic. But we did it for I've done it for about 4.5 years now. And it never ceases to get old. The kids continue to be very engaged in the experience because of the way that we incorporate it into our instruction. Someone you may want to look into, and I'd highly recommend, the link is here. This is a full TED Talk from Chris Milk. Chris Milk is at the cutting edge of VR video production. He has started many companies. He's created some incredible content out there. Some of it would be great for students. Some of it would probably be better for adults, but his TED Talk on this topic's amazing. And I'm going to show you a short clip because.
But then I started thinking about frames.
Let me go back. He created something called Clouds over Cedra. And Clouds over Cedra was a similar kind of to The Crossing, which I mentioned, where he followed the life of a girl named Cedra. She's 12, living in a camp. And it was created in conjunction with the United Nations. The United Nations wanted to raise awareness of the refugee experience. They wanted to evoke emotion. They wanted to evoke behavior change. They wanted to raise money in order to support people that are in this camp. So here I have a short clip that I'm going to show you that he's going to talk a little bit about just the power of this experience. And if you haven't seen VR in film, he will show that to you, and then we'll talk about it. Okay.
And what do they represent? And a frame is just a window. I mean, all the media that we watch, television, cinema, there's these windows into these other worlds. And I thought, well, great, I got you in a frame, but I don't want you in the frame. I don't want you in the window. I want you through the window. I want you on the other side in the world, inhabiting the world. So that leads me back to virtual reality. Let's talk about virtual reality. Unfortunately, talking about virtual reality is like dancing about architecture. And then this is actually someone dancing about architecture in virtual reality. So it's difficult to explain. Why is it difficult to explain? It's difficult because it's a very experiential medium. You feel your way inside of it. It's a machine, but inside of it, it feels like real life. It feels like truth. And you feel present in the world that you're inside, and you feel present with the people that you're inside of it. So I'm going to show you a demo of virtual reality film, a full screen version of all the information that we capture when we shoot virtual reality. So we're shooting in every direction. This is like the camera system that we built. It has 3D cameras looking in every direction, binaural microphones that face in every direction. We take this and we build basically a sphere of a world that you inhabit. So what I'm going to show you is not a view into the world, it's basically the whole world stretched to a rectangle. So this film is called Clouds Over Cedra, and it was made in conjunction with our virtual reality company called Verse and the United Nations, and a co-collaborator named Pablo Oro. And we went to a Syrian refugee camp in Jordan in December and shot the story of a 12-year-old girl there named Cedra. and her and her family fled Syria through the desert into Jordan, and she's been living in this camp for the last year and a half.
My name is Sira. I am 12 years old. I am a second grade. I am from Syria, the Darul Uloom University. I have lived here in the Zahir camp, Jordan, for the last year and a half. I have a big family, 3 brothers. One is a baby. He cries a lot. I asked my father if I cried when I was a baby, and he says I did not. I think I was a strong baby, my brother.
So when you're inside of that headset, you're not seeing it like this. You're looking around through this world. You'll notice you see full 360 degrees in all directions. And when you're sitting there in your room watching her, you're not watching it through a television. You're not watching it through a window. You're sitting there with her. When you look down, you're sitting on the same ground that she's sitting on. And because of that, you feel her humanity in a deeper way. You empathize with her in a deeper way.
So this has been, as I mentioned at the beginning, a focus of my own dissertation research. And so there was a woman, Dr. Danelle now, she did a whole study on this particular film and the reactions on Twitter. And then she was able to code them. And what she determined is that when we are delivering VR content, that there's not only a higher emotional engagement, so 20%, 27% higher emotional engagement, but that the effects last 34% longer when compared to just a traditional 2D environment. So, we know that we are giving kids all kinds of content and information, and some is going to stick and some is not going to stick. But when we're doing something like virtual reality and it becomes this incredible experiential learning experience and this emotional experience where we're really connecting with story, it's going to last so much longer. The learning is going to become so much deeper. And that's been the interesting part of the research I've done so far. Right now, so I work in middle school, and the research that I've been finding for VR and experiential learning has really focused more on college and high school level. And the research is demonstrating that kids are definitely able to get a deeper understanding of the content, deeper connection to the content. And in the case of, working or manipulating things, they're willing to take more risks. So there's a lot of power in this technology if we can get it into our schools. So when we're going to take it into our schools, I think there's really 2 phases of bringing it in. And I think phase 1 is going to be consumption. It can be a little overwhelming when you start, and there's so many tools out there, and we want to take something that's already been created and implement it. And then eventually, I think the sweet spot is moving to creation, where you're having students create their own content and then sharing it and then empathizing with one another that way. So for consumption, I have here, there's a whole bunch of different apps. So Google Arts and Culture has had some incredible, and when you have this slide deck, these are all active links. You're welcome to click on them and go and visit. But Google Arts and Culture will take you to all kinds of incredible exhibits related to, the arts. If you have Discovery Ed, I know they've got a lot of VR content as well. Merge is amazing, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. RIOT is the one that I mentioned had The Crossing, and they have some really incredible film content as well. Google Expeditions is here in the center because that is how I started. Sadly, they announced just recently that they are going to be sunsetting their expeditions and tour creator products at the end of, I think it's in June. But I do have some ideas about what might be replacements, and I'll share those with you in just a bit. And then YouTube 360 is really amazing. I had a French teacher who wanted to partner with me when around Halloween, and she wanted the students to experience the catacombs. And we thought, how cool would it be to bring them down in? So we found a really incredible 360 catacomb video. It had spooky music and the lighting was spooky. And it was about 2 minutes long, and they loved it. And of course, they're all kind of reaching out and trying to grab it. With YouTube 360, you have to be careful though, because you can sometimes get some salacious content out there. So you'd want to be fielding that and making sure the kids are going directly to that link versus having them search for it. Within is amazing. That is Chris Melk's, newest brainchild, and there's a lot of really great VR content there as well. Google Earth is also really phenomenal, and I was just speaking with that French teacher this morning, and we're going to have the kids create these like passport experiences where they're going to visit different francophone regions over the course of the year, and each quarter kind of focus on one region and kind of dig in and learn about the culture and the way of life in these different places using these tools. And then lastly, Oculus. I know Corey mentioned Oculus Quest. Oculus, obviously began as more of like an entertainment piece, but there are some incredible apps. I'll mention a few here in a moment, but there's some really great content. Oculus Quest, though, is on the pricier side. So that's the kind of thing where maybe there's a really great innovation grant in your community or in your state that you can get those, but they're amazing. So I think what's really important to remember that is if we want our kids to be going out there into the world and changing the world around them, we have to really inspire them, and we have to use these incredible stories of the people that have changed the world. And I think we're lucky to have these tools at our dispense to do that. So one way that I've used this, and I've used kind of a consumption-based tool, is again with 7th grade, there's a big kind of refugee experience that we've built off of that original video that I did. We actually were able to incorporate some beautiful books along with a really great app. So this boy on the left here is using our Oculus Go's. I have 8 Oculus Go's. The Go's came kind of before the Quests. And there's a really great app called A Place Called Home, where you're basically immersed into this refugee camp. I believe it was in Tanzania. And you're able to kind of click and point. And in some places you go and you're kind of looking at a still image and there's someone narrating for you. Other times you click and point and you're looking at like a video. But it really helped the kids get a sense of what it's like and the activities that happen there. And we partnered this with some really amazing books. So I was able to get some books through our parent teacher organization. And so we had The Journey, Stepping Stones, Stormy Seas. So just some really beautiful picture books that were diverse. And we also had students read a biography, like a chapter from We Are Displaced. So learning from, someone's personal experience. And we have the kids then decide how to share that experience through a project that they create. And many of them decided to use Google Tour Creator to sort of create a virtual experience to explain the story. So it was pretty neat. And I think it was nice. We basically had it set up as kind of stations around the library, and it took about 2 days for them to work through it. And then they kind of worked on that project. Another really amazing tool is Anne Frank House VR, and this is free. This is on, unfortunately, it's only on the Oculus products, but it basically kind of walks you through what it is like. I know that the museum site also has something like this you can do on your computer, which is really amazing. But if you want something more immersive, you can do it on Oculus. And it just really brings students right there. We do the Anne Frank, Diary of Anne Frank play that's kind of an adapted version of her full diary in 8th grade. And for some students, we use this app as a way to kind of give the students context before they viewed the play. Others, we had them do it after. And so it's a lot of fun. And what's neat about the Oculus is it comes with a little handset, so you can kind of click and decide versus just kind of sitting and absorbing. And I know the kids really enjoy that sort of interactivity. This Traveling While Black is phenomenal. This is a piece that we use in 8th grade when the students are studying civil rights. So we look at civil rights in the 60s, but then we bring it to modern day civil rights and what is happening for people today. This looks at basically the Green Book and how people were traveling around the United States. And then it brings us to modern day and the racism and prejudice that Black Americans face today. It's really amazing. It's about 20 minutes long. What I love about this piece is that it puts you in these positions where you're kind of like in the action. So they set it in a diner in Washington, D.C. And at one point you're kind of sitting in a booth and there's people all around you, like having a conversation about their stories. And it's kind of like you're there with them. And the kids were so into it because it just, again, you're like in the story versus watching it from afar. So I would highly recommend this one. It's another free one available, unfortunately, only through Oculus. Merge Cube is amazing. Merge is really going to be doing more, they do more of the AR. So through this cube, which I'm holding in my hand, if you have your camera on or are able to see me, this cube, you have either a phone or a tablet, positioned over it, and it turns into something in your hand. And so a lot of the information right now has been focused more on, the sciences and stuff, but there are some apps that are really fantastic with this as well. So one of them is Object Viewer, and Object Viewer is a free app. So you can load it on to students, iPads, or we have a Chromebook that also has like a tablet built in, a Lenovo, so we can use it on that as well. And it allows you to hold these objects, and many of them are culturally relevant, which is pretty cool. And you can kind of learn about the stories and the history that's connected to these objects. And then as you can see here, you can stamp them. So when you stamp them, you kind of stamp them into place in your environment, and you can put the cube down and then use your iPad and kind of walk around it to explore it from a full 360 angle, which is cool. We can also have kids upload their own objects. There's a really great app called Clone. It's Qlone. I have it in my resource Padlet for you. And it allows you to put an object like on this little sheet, and you can scan it using your iPad, and you can actually upload 3D objects. So we're thinking about doing this with our historical society in town. We have like a little red schoolhouse, and we would like to make it like a digital museum as well. And so we're going to probably have the kids do some scanning so that we can, get these out online. So if you can't make it into our schoolhouse, you can still see these incredible objects and learn about the history of our community. So this is what like a stamp looks like. This is actually in my library. The woman to the right there is my assistant, Linda, and to the left there is a student, and you can see one behind. So there's nothing actually there. It just looks like there's this really cool statue. And so the kids really enjoy stamping and like posing with it, and it just makes it kind of fun and engaging. This app is really amazing. 57 Degrees North, another like 80s reference here. I mentioned to you that I love my Viewmaster, but I also love Choose Your Own Adventure books as a kid. And 57 Degrees North works on that same line of thinking. So you have the cube, the story begins. And then as the story's going, you get to a point where they will tell you have a decision to make. So if you turn the cube one way, something will happen in the story. Or if I turn it the other way, something else will happen. So this is a really beautiful app. It's you like are holding this box with this story in it in your hands. The graphics are incredible. There's like sound effects and everything. This one is a paid app. I want to say it's around $3 or $4. But if you reach out to Mighty Coconut, who created it, they often will give like a little trial. And so you can play around and see if your kids really like it before you purchase it. I had like a 30-day trial before I went and sprung for it. Also on Mighty Coconut's site, there's a gentleman that has shared how you can build your own Choose Your Own Adventure Merge Cube, dealios. And if you don't have the Merge Cube, you can actually print out Merge Cubes. And I have a link to that as well. And Merge totally encourages people to do that. So that's a great way, especially right now when we can't share materials, to keep everyone safe during the pandemic. We can print it out, and it's obviously a cost savings as well. Oops, sorry. Actually, let me show you this little clip so you get a little taste of it.
Rock! Sasha yelled from the front of the small boat. Alaska's inside passage was a labyrinth of islands, and he honestly had no idea where they were.
So it's really cool and interactive. The kids love it. I think it's a really cool way for students to share their stories and to come up with their own kind of choose your own adventures. Okay, so creation is next, and creation is made a little complicated now because, as I mentioned, some of the Google tools are going away, but I think there's some other ones that are out there that are worth kind of keeping your feelers out for. So first one that I want to mention is Google Tour Creator. This is basically where students can make their own Google expedition. This is only going to be available until the end of June because Google has decided to sunset it. My colleague and I, who are always following this stuff, think that there's probably going to be an announcement. They've got something else coming. but as of right now, we have not heard anything. But this would be a fun thing to just play around with in these remaining months of the school year. And it's very easy to use. You basically are able to type in an address or a location, and using Google Street View, they kind of take you there. You sort of zoom in, and then the students can add in like little pins, so they can have little points of interest. So if someone hovers over that, it can be a pop-up image, it can be pop-up text, you can have narration. And so we normally start like in 8th grade. The science teacher here starts the school year by having the students create a virtual tour of like, what did you do for your summer? And so then they have different points on the map, and it's just a fun way to get to know students and have them share their story. Or maybe you have a lot of students that travel over spring break. They can kind of share their travels that way. So it's very cool. You can also incorporate your own 360 images in, and I'll show you in a little bit how you can do that without needing any fancy equipment. So tutorials here as well if you wanted to explore that. And what's great about Tour Creator, or whatever ends up replacing it, is we can make these really great curricular connections to stories. So English language arts, we've had kids do these personal narratives. In world language, we had kids do a day in the life project where we said, okay, you're gonna go to Madrid for the day. What are you gonna do? So they get to plan out their trip for the day. They get to explore the arts and culture and food and everything that's amazing in Madrid. And then they created this really cool tour, demonstrated their learning, spoke in Spanish. So it was amazing. In social studies in 7th grade, we do a lot of world culture studies, and we look at how people live around the world. And so that's been a really great way for students to be immersed into these other places. And then they study the traits of civilizations, just like government and education and the arts. And they can, again, share their learning while using this really cool, engaging tool. So as I said, the bad news is this is going away. So I feel bad that I'm like, here's this amazing thing, but it's not going to be here. However, there are 2 tools that are currently in beta that I would recommend. If this is kind of your jam and you think you'd want to try this, I would highly recommend that you sign up for the CoSpaces EDU My 360. That looks really pretty promising, and they're having people kind of play around with it right now. And then Expeditions Pro, I kind of stumbled upon on Twitter and signed up, and recently got a little alert that they're going to start doing some beta testing as well. So I think it's always fun to, try this stuff out, be a guinea pig. And what's great is I know with like CoSpaces EDU, they're very open to teacher input. So if there's something that you think they could do better, they're very open to that, and they often are modifying their tool. Expeditions Pro is new to me, but I'm excited to explore it and kind of learn a little bit more. So CoSpaces EDU is a really incredible tool. We were kind of early adopters of this tool. It's it's a more animated tool, and it allows students to create augmented and virtual worlds. So let me just show you a short little clip, because my description of it is not going to be as good as if you actually get to see it here. Let's see.
Everything starts with an empty space. But use the power of your imagination, and you will create something new. Introducing CoSpaces, a platform that allows anyone to create, explore, and share fantasy worlds. CoSpaces gives you the tools to unlock a new learning experience, tell exciting stories, or just let your imagination flow. Share the experience with your family, or scare them with your terrifying T-Rex. Unlimited worlds await to be explored. Just let the fun begin, even in VR. Share your creations with anyone and give them a glimpse into your imagination.
So CoSpaces is awesome because, as you probably saw in the video, you can actually build. So we're a Chromebook school here. The students can build on their Chromebooks. You can build on an iPad. You can even build on a phone. It's a little bit tougher, but you can do it. And then there's like a sharing code where you can play, and you can actually get the app on phones and then insert it into a headset, and then kids can be immersed into the worlds. But it's still pretty cool to, even if you don't have the option of the phones and the headsets, to look at it virtually even within the computer. But this has been a really incredible tool for us, kind of a game changer, because it gives students a tool in which to tell stories or which to demonstrate their learning. And so let's see here. So some of our connections, English language arts, we've had some students do some personal narrative stories, you know, some memoir kind of pieces. In world languages, we did a family project where you can kind of create these scenes in CoSpaces. It's not like Minecraft where it like keeps going and going. You can create these different scenes, and within the scene, you have like a play area. So we did a project where each scene was like a member of the family, and they were able to create like a person, and they designed what they would like them to look like. They had objects that represented some of their interests. They were able to use little labels. They could narrate. Again, they used the language that they were studying. And so that was cool. We've also had them become docents where they create a museum. Maybe they're learning about French art. And so you have a French art museum, and you can literally create a building and walk through it. And you can have art on the walls, and you can have labels and information, again, narrating, and it's really amazing. Social studies, we've done traits of culture this way. We've even had kids design a utopia. So they looked at, you know, all different places around the world, and they determined like what would be like the ideal place to live. And they designed what they thought was a utopia. And we kind of did this in position with a unit in ELA where they were going to read The Giver, where that's like very dystopian. And so we ended up using the Merge Cube for it, and students were able to, on each side, explain something. So education could be on one side of the cube, government on another side, the arts on a different side. So it was a really fun way for the kids to share their learning, and they get really into it. And what I like about CoSpaces is there's a lot of just drag and drop. So if you have kids that are not as comfortable with tech, it's there for them. But if you have kids that want to like take it to the next level, there's the opportunity to do some coding. There's physics where it's kind of like Angry Birds where you can propel something and then the stuff moves. So it's a really incredible tool. I am an ambassador for this, so full transparency. And, you know, there's a free version of CoSpaces, which I always recommend that people start with. But if you get really into it and you want to try the pro version, which includes like the cube, this is a little code that I have here. I also have it in my resource page that allows you to have 30 days with the pro version for 100 seats. And you can share this code with as many people as you want. And it's a lot of fun to kind of play around with it if you decide you want to try it and maybe look into purchasing it for your district. So one thing that you'll come into play here is with these creation tools is you need a 360-degree camera. If you're going to use CoSpaces, you can incorporate 360 images. And the problem is not everybody wants to go buy a Ricoh Theta and spend $400 on a camera. And they can be really tricky because there's this stitching involved to kind of make everything work. So the cool thing is it's all in your phone. If you use Google Street View, you can actually create a 360 bubble on your own very quickly. And so it just, what it does, and I think I have, nope, I didn't put it in, I apologize. And I have a little tutorial of this. What it does is there's these yellow dots, and you basically just go around the room, click on the yellow dots, and it creates it and stitches it for you. So there's a tutorial for that. Maria Galanis has to get credit for that. She's the one that came up with this. And it's a great like free way. You just add the app in your phone, and then you can go ahead and get these really great 360-degree images. So I want to close by saying I think the highest form of knowledge is really empathy. I think, like I said at the beginning, more than ever, it is super important for us to be able to share our stories, but hear other stories. And as much as I love books and love 2D videos, I just have found that there is such power in virtual reality, and harnessing that, I think, is really so transformative for our students. So I want to share with you, I have this Padlet that I've created that I kind of keep adding to, and it's got all these resources for you. Let me kind of back out because then I can show it to you on the screen. I've organized it kind of by category. So basic tools are here on, you know, the 360-degree creation tools. If you're interested and you don't have equipment and you're not sure where to go, equipment information is here. One thing I'll tell you is we started out with the Google Cardboard, as I mentioned, and I have middle schoolers with like, you know, oily T-zones. So by the time one student was done with it, it kind of looked like a greasy pizza box. It was sort of gross. So I highly recommend, I'm really loving these Merge headsets because they're soft and squishy. They're easy to wipe down. The phones don't get stuck in them like some of the Viewmasters do. And they're like adjustable. They're more adjustable for like eye width. And so that really helps quite a bit. So that's there. The print your own merge cube is here as well. And if you've got a nice big budget or you want to, splurge, Oculus Quest is there also. I've got some just overview information. If you want to share AR and VR information with someone that maybe doesn't know as much about it, it's here. Highly recommend a woman named Jamie Donnelly. She does a really great talk on Wednesday nights on Twitter. And she is so on top of this topic and so knowledgeable and so wonderful. And I know she spoke, I believe, last week at this conference. Love her. And she's got a lot of great content to share. CoSpaces info is here. There's all kinds of stuff to help you. I have my Google Expeditions thread, and this is going to have to go away as of June. So I have like that little alert at the top. Some more Merge Cube info, and then just kind of some other resources that are related to VR that would be worth exploring. So I know we have 5 minutes left. I just want to, thank everyone for coming. And let me go back here so I can get back big screen. Let's see. So I want to thank everyone for coming. And I just want to encourage you again to reach out to me. I'm happy if you would like to email me. We can set up a Zoom to chat, or if you want to chat with me through, Twitter, let me know what you need. But I wanted to take maybe the last few minutes here to answer some questions. See. Okay, so does anyone have any questions? Let's see. I'm going back here. Thank you, Nikki. Yes, CoSpaces looks amazing. Thank you, Deborah. You're welcome, Tanya. It's always weird presenting to like silence, so thank you. I appreciate the feedback. Thanks, Joy. Yes, Tanya, that is, I just noticed back the Facebook servers. That is definitely something that we're running into here as well. And Joy Mozilla, is it Mozilla? I'm probably gonna say it wrong. I've heard of it, but I don't know much about it. So maybe we need to connect to talk about that. I would love to learn more if you know more about it. Terry, that's so awesome you have it. I'm sad to hear they didn't give you the training, but feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to like plan with you or brainstorm. I'll learn just as much. That's why I love connecting with people. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything else. Thank you, Lisa. You're welcome. Have fun exploring.
It was a great Padlet that you put together, Andrea. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I have some of the merge cubes that I just got, so I'm excited to explore that a little bit more.
They're fun, yeah. And like I said, the object viewer is a good start because you can kind of play around, and yeah, they're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The kids like squishing them.
And they're not.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and they're easy to manage.
They are, and you can wipe them down, which is nice. And it's funny, I bought them when there was a craze where they were like $1 a piece at Walmart. Yes, so I was like, it's like supermarket sweep. I like filled my cart. I was like, the people thought I was nuts because they were like, what is that? I'm like, oh, this is gonna be the next thing. I just know it. Oh, Lisa printed already. You're a rock star. You can also print them like really big. People do like crazy big ones and have so much fun with them. So, or you can put something on your shirt. You can do iron-ons on your shirt. So when people come scan over your shirt, it becomes something. So get creative with it. All right, we're down to the last minute. I hope the speed was okay.
I thought your pace was just fine.
Oh, good. I always feel like I'm going too fast.
Yeah.
Good for you, Lisa. Yeah, there was something called like Brick Finder I used for Walmart so I could find where they were. I had to go like a half hour away to get my merge cubes. It's the things that, we're resourceful people. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate you coming to my session. Please reach out. I would love to plan with you or just bat around ideas with you or troubleshoot with you.
Thank you, Andrea. We appreciate you sharing your expertise and knowledge with us, and you enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I think it's about 3 o'clock there, and we're just heading into our lunch hour. So
Yes, enjoy the sunshine.
all right, stay warm.
Yes, take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.